Employment Hero has also published some research based on the YouGov Data Commission. And interestingly enough, saying that full-time employment costs in the UK are up 10% in a year. Now, I haven't seen US numbers yet, but I would imagine there's probably a similar trend. And that's a pretty heavy number to see a 10% lift across the year. We're seeing that naturally in the market. Businesses are slowing their hiring. They're limiting roles. They're freezing on positions that maybe were open, and then a pivot to avoiding permanent roles altogether. When you start adding up that 10% lift in a year's time, so many components to it: national insurance, a wage increase, and employment law reforms that are happening, and having a permanent headcount, I think, is becoming harder for a lot of businesses to justify. Would love your thoughts on kind of where that sits.
For me, I do think it's a worrying time. And I think as well, accountants having to advise their clients now on, other things that have been around for a long time. But when we think about making sure that contractors abide by certain rules and that they've been employed by more than one person and things like that. And then where do we store it all? So I know you just mentioned Employment Hero. They've obviously now got their Hero Force, so they can have their contracts in the same place as their payroll team members and things like that. But I think one of the big challenges here is who's missing out. So is it the people that need the part-time work? Is it the older workers that are going to retire? So if we're going to employ contractors, who are the people we're not actually employing? Uh, but it's a worrying time for small businesses. We are frightened to employ because of the day one rules, which I totally understand why they're in place, but it leaves businesses wide open to additional costs that they just can't afford. And it's very quick for them to go under if that's the case.
But I've got to think there are questions coming the way of the accountant. Clients and businesses are wanting to talk about, who should I hire directly? Who should I try to contract with? How should I find them? What's the tax
Mhm.
impact? How does compliance fit into all of this? That's a wild ride if you're not familiar with advisory on those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. And I think it would be really interesting to do like a comparison with the US and other countries as well in terms of like what our costs look like broadly compared to other countries. I mean, Billy and I probably know better than you, Kendrick. We had some tax changes that came in which have had an impact on employment rates, and have increased the cost. But ironically, their anticipated costs were probably broader than the growth that we've seen. So maybe it is having a bit of a kind of like an anchoring effect on employment. But you're also right in terms of that cultural experience. I think we're less likely to kind of lean into freelancers and consultants unless it's more. They're generally perceived to operate in a sort of a fairly sophisticated world, and because of some of our employment requirements, we generally struggle to kind of engage with freelancers and contractors on a long term basis, at least because of the tax risks and the implications that come with that.